right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We'll get started here in just a second.
The number again is 866-521-WELL. Are you able to hear Dr. Lazar?
Yes.
Oh, it sounds good. Yeah. Okay, mic's up.
Welcome to your weekly checkup with Dr. Lazar. This is the show dedicated to helping you live an extraordinary life. Super excited to be with you tonight. Jaden, thank you for being in the studio with us. Absolutely. So we are doing something really cool. We're streaming live on our social media platforms right now, which is super exciting. And so if you are joining us on the interwebs, on the social media platforms, make sure you say hi and let us know. And we'll do our best to answer your questions here on the show. And would love to hear comments. So, Marge, great to see you on here. Thank you for joining us, and super great hearing from you. And Marge is saying hi to you too, Jaden.
Hi.
So, Marge is one of the sweetest ever. And if any of you are wondering, Marge likes medium-sized Reese's Peanut Butter Cup Blizzards from Dairy Queen, especially the one in Mackinac City. Absolutely. Good times. Well, thanks for joining your weekly checkup. It's great to have you. And we've got lots of great things going on. So if you have comments, you can send them right on here. And we'll be happy to share things with you. There we go. Marge said, aw. That's super fun. So, Jaden, what's our big topic tonight? Got it. She's leaving. She's seeing if I remember. She's seeing if I remember. That's okay. I understand. So we are talking about how the body is designed to heal itself. And so if we are doing things as if we're messed up, the body's messed up, it's not going to work, and we just hope we don't get unlucky with it, then that would be a challenge. But that's not the case. In fact, what we know is the power that made the body heals the body, and the body wants to heal and function at its best. And so the question becomes, what do we have to do in order to make sure that works? Well, some people say, I'm going to take a bunch of medication. But that does not keep the body working how it needs to, and it's not physiologically compatible. We were talking on our last show about how the body goes through this stress response and what happens as a result of that. I just did some advanced training today on how much trouble we can have with the inner ear. And when the inner ear gives us trouble, we'll have things like vertigo or tinnitus where the ears are ringing, or we'll have things like Meniere's where, we just have absolutely no quality of life at that point because we're afraid of what might develop. We're afraid of making plans. And so the inner ear is a huge, technically it's a very, very, very small structure, but the neurology in there is a massive amount of neurology. And when that gets off, whether it's from infection, whether it's from injury to the inner ear, whether it's from a loud environment, whether it's us talking on our cell phones all the time or wearing our AirPods and just beating up the structures of our ear, the good news is we can do things neurologically to unpinch the nerves that control that. And there are some advanced protocols we can do with our laser to help change how that soft tissue is functioning. And so the good news is if you're suffering with things like Meniere's or vertigo or tinnitus where there's ringing, there's a lot that can be done about that. Marge said on Facebook, our bodies are like the body of Christ. It works in unison with each part or the other in order to function correctly. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%, Marge. So, Jaden, you are in the office a bunch and you get to see some things going on. Do you remember the young man named Eric who came in with really bad vertigo? I don't know if you were around or you might have still been in Iowa at the time, but he had come in, and the reason he came in is he was looking up things to do to help with vertigo because he couldn't. His son is a competitive baseball player, and he couldn't go to his son's events because he couldn't function. He couldn't drive. He would get too dizzy, and so he was missing out on stuff with his son. And so he came and asked for help. Got full resolution of vertigo, which was just amazing. He was able to go to his son's baseball games, and then people do this. I don't know what the deal is. People do this. He took his son to Cedar Point, and then he came in and wondered why he was kind of messed up, but it's okay. At least he got to go. I don't know if you remember him. But Jaden, what are some things that you have observed when it comes to dizziness, vertigo, ringing in the ears? Because you take a lot of the subjective notes. You're a certified tech in the office as well. And so you work with people with the laser and with the stem cell work, and you're just kind of all over the place. And I know people would love to hear from you about some things that you've observed or seen how people respond with this.
I would say that out of like so vertigo, for example, you mentioned that. Um, I could not tell you the amount of people that came in with vertigo, and even after their first adjustment, said, "Wow, like I'm not as dizzy anymore. I can stand up. I don't feel like I'm staring at a spinning room, like looking in a spinning room." Um, Even after only one adjustment in the office. And that is very loud to me because we always tell people, allow your body to take a little bit of time to heal. Um, and we try to set them up to know what to expect and drink a lot of water. And that's usually what we tell people. And then we give them a call later that night just to ask, how are you doing after your first adjustment? And it's crazy to me the amount of people. Well, it's not crazy to me because I know why, but it's fascinating to me um, that even after just one or two adjustments, they're not dealing with vertigo anymore.
Yeah, that's a
It's a pretty quick, easy fix.
in
If you're
terms
doing
it is in terms of the symptoms. It definitely can take longer than that to fully fix, but it certainly can do that as far as symptoms are concerned, which is great. I mean, again, the power that made the body heals the body. It happens no other way. So anything else we do is just kind of mimicking the body or altering it to see how things are functioning or changing the way the body functions, but not in a corrective sort of way. I mean, what we tell people all the time is that your inner 3-year old must be satisfied all the time. Your inner 3-year old wants to know
why?
all the time, I'm getting dizzy. Why? Well, because that just happens. Why? Well, because you're getting old. Really? Like, I'm dizzy
That's
because I'm
another
getting old?
excuse. That's what we hear a lot in the office as well. I'm just getting older. So, like shrinking, people use that for example. Oh, I'm just shrinking because I'm getting older. It's
Right.
normal, happens to everybody. And we say that's actually not supposed to happen. That's your body compressing and your spine. That's why it looks like you're shrinking because you're losing the what's in between your vertebrae. They're squishing down, and then you're getting bone on bone, which can cause or
Yeah, for sure. And so that's a great question. People say they've said in the past, "Hey, I don't need." Thank God, if they hear I'm a chiropractor, they'll say, "Well, thank God I don't need you." And I say, "Hey, man, thank God, that's cool. Hey, by the way, how tall are you?" And they'll say, 5'10". And I say, "Have you always been 5'10"? And they'll say, "No, I used to be 5'11 and a half or whatever." And so, losing height, Jaden, that's a great point. Losing height is definitely a big indicator that you've got spinal misalignments that are affecting nerve flow. We're going to talk about why that's important. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back right after this. Welcome back to your weekly checkup with Dr. Lazar. I've got Jaden in the studio. Great to have you with us tonight, Jaden. Our number tonight is 866-521-WELL, 866-521-9355. And if you're watching online, thank you for joining us. Feel free to leave your comments here, and we'll be happy to answer those as much as we can on the air. Also, this will be podcasted, so if you want to watch it later, you can always check out yourweeklycheckup.com, and you can share that with friends and family. If you would please rate our podcast, that will help. More people find it. And the way we see it, if someone had told you sooner what was going on, then you'd be helped a lot. You would have been helped a lot sooner. So we're super excited to be able to share this information with you. So one of the pieces of technology we have in our office it's called SoftWave. Some people, it's impressive to me, people actually know what SoftWave is. But what that device is it's tissue regenerative technology. So you'll hear us refer to it as TRT. And the TRT is because those waves go into the body and it stimulates the body's production of stem cells. And so the brain will send stem cells to whatever area we're putting the waves in, and then it will actually regenerate tissue. What are some common areas of huge wins, Jaden, that you've seen where things people come in and ask for help with, and then the stem cell work we do helps with that? What are some big ones you've seen?
My first thought was knees. We hear about knee pain a lot, or trouble going up and down steps, or walking even, and so TRT helps with that. Shoulders as well. It's great. I personally did it on my ankle after I injured it because I didn't want to be in the boot for a while, so I did TRT on my ankle, and I can wear heels again. Like, my ankle is better than it was for as long as I can remember.
That's really cool. That's very cool. We will make a webinar available. And so we'll check on the next break. We'll check and just make sure the link is good for that. But if you're interested at all in that, we're happy to get you the information. We've done a webinar on that, which is really helpful. We've shared some really, really cool stories. Yes, knees are big. We get a lot of results with neuropathy, a lot of results with edema, people whose legs have been swelling. And that part is really, it's just cool. It's so cool to help the body. Not help the body, to allow the body to do what it needs to do and not have to react to a bunch of other stuff. So that's been big. We have a guy who his entire career has involved music, and he had a trigger finger and couldn't do anything, as far as playing guitar. And he got a lot of help with that. There was another guy, really, really owns a big business. And I would never have thought of this, but he had a bunch of trouble in his hand, tons of pain in his right hand, and couldn't shake people's hands. And I mean, I guess that would be annoying or something, but I didn't realize until he, told us about it, that was a big deal for his business, because, he's got this international business and couldn't shake people's hands. And that's a bigger deal. I mean, that affects his livelihood. And so that was great that he had gotten better with that. What's something, Jaden, that has surprised you about having the stem cell work? You're certified to do that, which is neat. So you get to see that. Monica's who usually does that in our office. But fortunately, we've got multiple people that are certified to do that in case she's, out partying or something, or on vacation or whatever. What are some cool things? What's something that surprised you that you've seen with that? Mm-hmm.
And so I just assumed it would be painful because it was loud. And when I did it on myself, because I wanted to know what I was doing when I did it for other people. So I did it on myself first, so I could experience what they were feeling. And I was so nervous. I was like, this is going to hurt. And then as soon as I did it, I was like, it must not be on. I didn't feel anything. And then I did it again, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's not bad. And I just assumed it would be painful because it was loud, and it wasn't at all. So that was surprising to me the first time that I did it, that it was not painful.
That's it can be if there's a ton of damage, but it can be super loud. We've got a guy with Parkinson's we've helped several, but just one guy came to mind. We've helped with Parkinson's, with gait improving, with the stem cell work. If you're interested in learning more about that, you can go to drlazar.com/TRT webinar. TRT stands for Tissue Regenerative Technology. drlazar.com/TRT webinar, and you'll be able to get some more information on that. We're going to take a short break, and we'll take your calls live right after this. Welcome back to your weekly checkup. I'm Dr. Lazar. Jaden is my special co-host tonight. Super glad to have you here. We got a little bit of feedback over the break that Jaden's mic wasn't as loud. So thank you for telling us that, and we'll get that fixed. So thank you for that. Although, I don't know. I mean, I feel like people think she's the favorite anyway. So maybe we have her mic down on purpose. I don't know. That could be a thing. If you're joining us on social media, thank you so much for doing that. And keep in mind that you can hear a replay of the show anytime on demand at yourweeklycheckup.com on our podcast. Want to let you know that coming into the office is always an option. We have such an amazing team. We're so blessed to be able to work with such a committed group of people. We've got multiple doctors that train really, really, really hard to be able to serve you and your family. We have community outreach lectures that we do regularly on neurodevelopmental disorders, on the gut-brain connection, on epilepsy and seizures, on vertigo. There are several things that we can really help a lot of people with, and we love to share that information with you. And so that part is we're really, really excited to do that. We have several events a month, so make sure you're checking that out and sharing with your friends and family, because it's all about offering hope. So super excited for that. Also, just for being a WMUZ listener, whether you're listening on the radio or seeing us here online, we would love to offer you a complimentary consultation. That's normally $224, but we gift that to our listeners and followers as our way of saying thank you. And what that gives you is you come into the office, we go over a health history, we give you a tour of the office, and we will do a knee to knee consultation. You can meet with one of our doctors. We'll do a posture check, all of that for $224. If we can help you or think we could, we'll look into doing nerve scans and x-rays. And we have some new technology in the office where we're able to do motion x-ray. On the radio, you can't see that, but we've had some posts where we've showed motion x-ray, which is really cool. So very excited to continue, pushing the envelope to bring you best in world care. Chelsea on Facebook said, hi. Hey, Chelsea, great to see you on here, and hope things are going well. If you need a real estate agent in the, I don't know what I would call it, the greater Lansing area, Chelsea, if it's different, post that as a comment and I'll fix it. But anyway, make sure you get a hold of Chelsea. She's crushing it out there. All right, so we're talking about the stem cell work, the tissue regenerative technology. Jaden's injured her ankle about 1,004 times, so it's helped with that. It's really helpful too with peak performance type stuff. We take care of really elite athletes, and the recovery time just shrinks down. It's so cool. People that are hurt can get back on the field and or on the court or whatever venue they're playing. And so it's good. It's good stuff. All right, Jaden, what I would love for you to do is share with somebody listening or watching that is hearing this and saying, okay, this doesn't make sense to me. Like, I was raised that I'm supposed to take a pill or have surgery. And I don't know, this stuff sounds really, really different to me. What would you say to that person?
I would say, well, first, I would probably bring up that new technology is always coming out. Just think about the iPhone alone, how much more we've gotten from that as years go on. And so maybe a long time ago, medicine was the best option, or for example, medicine was the best option. But now, if you can fix your knee injury, maybe you previously tore or partially tore something in your knee, and you don't really want to have surgery. You're also not a fan of the cortisone injections, and you don't want to use your own stem cells because that's painful, why wouldn't you try something that is not as painful as a cortisone shot or surgery? There's no like recovery time after surgery. Like, this sounds like the best option if you're wanting to go as natural as possible. And I think it's pretty quick with TRT. We've had patients immediately after their first mapping session. The mapping session tells us which area we need to focus on. And that session alone, we've had people say, I can already walk better, I can already go up steps better. It's fascinating. So I would say definitely try it.
Very cool. Well, we're going to take a short break and we'll take your calls live right after this.
We hope you find the information.
Welcome back to your weekly checkup. We're talking about tissue regenerative technology. Our number is 866-521-WELL, 866-521-9355. And we are taking your calls live tonight. We'd love to invite you into the office for a complimentary consultation to see if what we do could help. And if not, here's our promise. If we can help you, we'll let you know. If we can't, we'll let you know that as well, and we'll help you find someone who can. So that's our promise to you, and we want to make sure that you're aware of that. You know, the number of times people have come into us and have said, "Hey, I think I've done everything. I've tried everything. I got a T-shirt from it, you know, and I just don't know what to do about that." It just is sad for us to hear, especially how fast people respond that they weren't aware. We hear all the time, why didn't anybody tell me about this sooner? And all I can say is, like, we're trying really, really hard. Like, we really, really take it seriously to let you know what's available. We added TRT, the tissue regenerative technology. We added the stem cell work to the office because we were starting to see that as we were getting things balanced out structurally for people, there were people that weren't holding their adjustments. In other words, they would come back, they would leave balanced and come back out of balance, and it would go on this way for a long time, like year after year. And then we realized that maybe, you know, these, like if somebody's knee is breaking down, for example, they'll lose height on that part of the knee and they'll start to collapse down to that side. And so we started doing literally regenerating tissue in the knee for people. It's non-surgical, no injections, no time, no downtime, no time off work. It's really fascinating. And then we were starting to see people were balancing out. They were able to get their, able to get their function back, which was super cool. And it's fascinating. So that's what got us started into it. And then we started seeing some really great changes, again, with things like neuropathy, with edema, with other joint problems, trouble in the spine, with disc issues, regenerating some material where the discs are in the spine. That's a really, really, really cool thing. So it's very cool. Jaden, as you do, you mentioned knees were really common. What are some other areas of the body you've seen respond pretty well?
I'd say low back.
Okay.
That's something we hear quite often about low back pain, and we can adjust you and help with that. But there are some, if you've had like an injury, or people use the word tweak a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a common thing that we hear, and that's when I recommend TRT for your back. And the cool thing about about the stem cell device is that when we do a mapping session, it will tell us if there was an injury to that area. So I just find it so fascinating that someone will say, "Oh no, I've never hurt my left knee before, only my right knee." And when we do the mapping session, if it's for their knees, we do the mapping session, and we say, "Actually, this is telling us that you have had an injury or something done to your knee that negatively affected your knee." And then they think about it, and they're like, "Oh, actually, when I was little, I injured my knee or dislocated or popped it out or whatever." And it's just fascinating that we can find that even if you don't know or remember of an injury. That's also what the reflexology does. Those are points on your hands and feet that will tell us where we should focus.
Yeah. It lets us know if there's been any soft tissue damage, so when the wave goes in, if it hits a cell wall that's not damaged, it just bounces right off. But if it hits a cell wall that is damaged, then that's when that's when it will elicit a response. And then it sends a signal out. It's called an exosome, if there are any geeks out there. And the exosome is the kind of the SOS signal that the cell gives off, and then that lets the brain know, hey, we need some help down here. And what will happen is once those exosomes leave this, are sent out of the cell, either the brain will send help, to repair, and then there's a phenomenon called apoptosis or apoptosis, if you're super geeking. Either way, you can, but that's programmed cell death. And so what will happen is the bad cells, the cells that are damaged, will eventually break down and be cleared out. And then the new cells can be laid down. Just like doing a landscaping project, if you get a bunch of the old material out and put new material in, that's literally what happens with this. So if you're interested in learning more about that, we have an on-demand webinar you can watch. If you go to drlazar.com, that's drlazar.com/TRT webinar. TRT for Tissue Regenerative Technology webinar. And I'll see about getting a link up for those of you watching online. I'll see about getting a link up there for you. So we're talking about tissue regenerative technology tonight, stem cell work. If you have looked into stem cell work, if you've heard of stem cell work, give us a call. We'd love to talk to you about options. We just had a lady in from out of town. She came in to see if we could help. And she was asking about what we do compared to different types of stem cell work. And so I'll share that information with you when we come back from the break, and it'll be great information for you. So sit tight, don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after this. That break music for online is pretty fun. It
I like it.
it's like carnival music. It makes me wanna dance. All right, so there are different types of work that will activate stem cells in the body. One of those, it's not actually stem cell work, but people will be, uh, they'll go for this type of help, especially with knees. That's big. Some other areas, but especially knees, where it's called PRP, platelet-rich plasma. And so orthopedic surgeons or pain clinics will do work with PRP or platelet-rich plasma, and that is an injection procedure where they'll draw your blood, they'll spin it real fast, they'll re-inject it. Basically, I mean, it's for all intents and purposes that's what happens, and it can help get it so that inflamed joints aren't as inflamed. It can lower some inflammation. So that's an option for some people. It's because it's injections, it's invasive, it can be painful, and we're anyway. A lot of people have done that. There's another option with stem cell work specifically, where the body, if you draw your own bone marrow out, so there's a mesenchymal stem cell option where they will draw your bone marrow out and then they'll re-inject that. That's a pretty. What's that?
Painful.
Yeah, we've talked to some people that have had that done. It's painful. It's pretty effective from what I've seen. It's painful and it's an invasive procedure. I think mesenchymal stem cell type work is it's pretty expensive. Ten to $20,000 or so is what I've heard for those procedures. There are hemopoietic stem cells sometimes that can be done that way, and then there are cellular activated stem cells that can be just injected. The ethical dilemma that comes up with that is in the United States, they don't have to disclose where the stem cells are being sourced. So in the United States, those could be fetal stem cells, which means they came from tissue after an abortion. They could be umbilical stem cells, which I think you donated your
I did.
was it your umbilical stem cells or placenta or?
Placenta and the umbilical cord.
Okay.
So everything that came with it, the cells, blood even.
Okay.
Sort of.
Yeah, that's super cool. So that will help with that helps a lot. But if people are going to have stem cells injected, from outside the body into the body, we suggest that you go out of the country for that, because if you do that in Europe, for example, they'll make sure you can specify there if they're coming from, like, you can say, hey, I only want stem cells that are from umbilical cord and not from aborted fetal tissue or whatever. So Marge asked if this is better than rooster cone plasma. So those will, I mean, when it comes to that versus cortisone, rooster cone plasma is going to typically give you longer lasting results. So there's a fancy word for rooster comb, but anyway, I can't think of it. So those injections, they're supposed to last about 1 to 3 months or so. There are some people that will compare that to PRP, the platelet-rich plasma. They're still injections, and so not that all injections are wrong or bad. It's just I certainly wouldn't recommend starting with that. And then the the waves that go into the body that help the body produce more stem cells are going to be the most regenerative. So the plasma, the platelet-rich plasma, the rooster comb plasma, those are going to help reduce inflammation. Cortisone injections will help reduce inflammation as well. But the problem with the cortisone injections is, number one, they're going to make the soft tissue weaker. So if you already have soft tissue damage and then you're getting cortisone injections, cortisone is a steroid, which is not what you asked, Marge, but that usually will come up. The rooster comb will usually come up when being compared with cortisone, like, hey, which one should I do? And I would say that the TRT would be a much better option than either of those, especially than the cortisone, because with cortisone, it's a steroid and that reduces the body's inflammatory process. But the body is really just a whole bunch of different series of cause and effect. So if the body's inflamed, our 3-year-old self wants to know. And so why, if we don't answer why it's inflamed and we just say, oh, stop the inflammation, then that's not going to fix the problem. And not fixing the problem, I don't just mean like philosophically or on principle, but think about it. If you've got inflammation in your knee and then you do cortisone injections and that reduces inflammation, but it doesn't fix the problem, and your body's not warning you as much, then you're putting yourself at much, much higher risk for additional injury. And then if the tissue becomes weaker because of that, which it will with repeated cortisone injections, then you're literally creating additional long-term damage in there. And so instead of fixing the problem, there are some things that can help it feel better potentially, but they're actually making the problem worse. And that's a pretty big deal. What do you think about that, Jaden?
TRT if you've had any 8 to 72 hours. And the reason we ask that is because when we do or perform the TRT for you, we want your body to be able to feel and know and react and respond to everything that we're doing. And the reason we ask that is because after, for example, a cortisone shot, you're not feeling what we're doing based off of the message that the cortisone is sending to your, like telling your brain not to be in pain. And so that's one of our big questions right before we perform TRT for that reason.
Yeah, so the issue with the cortisone especially is because it weakens the tissue. If we're sending waves into the body at that point, then it won't. It's not going to. It's not safe for us to do the TRT soft wave technology if you've had an injection within the last 30 days. That's how much the injections damage the tissue. So like we have to give the body 30 days after that in order to not cause damage. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to your weekly checkup. I'm Dr. Lazar. I'm with Jaden tonight. Jaden, thanks for being here. And if you are watching online, thank you for joining us online. Our number is 866-521-WELL. You'll hear that a bunch of times, and that's because we want you to come in and get checked, see if we can help you, and you have nothing to lose but the pain, and so we want that to really ring loud and clear. You know, people tell us they've done everything, and we ask, well, have you done upper cervical chiropractic? And they go, no, I don't know what that is. You know, we say, well, you probably haven't, which is where we adjust the spine from the very top. We don't pop, crack, or twist the spine. That's really important. I was just talking to somebody whose family member is in the hospital, and they're, you know, in a lot of pain. And the idea is, if we don't correct what's going on, this stuff will continue to show up, and it will show up worse. It's like not addressing a crack in the foundation. If it's left uncorrected, it will keep progressing, and we don't want to see that. So we have technology in the office, and that's to help you. But if you're not from around here, if you're hearing this and you're from another area and want help finding somebody there, we are happy to help you with that. We have people that fly in for our care, and we have people that we consult with remotely and help them find places close to them. So there are a lot of options. And if you have loved ones and they live in other places, still use the number. Give us a call, 866-521-WELL, 866-521-9355. And if it's during the show, you can ask questions on the air. If it's after the show, you can be connected with one of our awesome team members, or you can leave a message and we'll get with you. But the whole reason is that we can see if we can help. That's the idea. So fun times. Jaden, what is something, whether it has to do with TRT or not, what is something that's been really, really cool that you've observed lately? A miracle, a win, something that's been really cool. People love hearing about that.
Let's see. You had several. I would say the biggest one, like the first one that came to my mind, was a patient with neuropathy. I think we might have shared this before, but I'm going to share it again because it's so powerful. She was dealing with neuropathy, and for those of you who don't know what neuropathy is or the symptoms that you can experience with that, it might feel like pins and needles or tingling in your feet and your hands, or not feeling hot or cold in your feet or hands, or like there's a sock balled up in your shoe. And so not eat properly can affect your response time, or your balance. And we had a patient who was going with family on vacation, and she wanted to be able to walk better and not feel the awful feeling she was feeling in her feet. And so she did our neuropathy program in the office, and she stuck to it, and she listened, which I absolutely love it when patients are willing to help themselves by following the care plan. That's the best thing you can do as a patient to benefit yourself, would be to follow the care plan that Dr. Lazar or any doctor in our office has made specifically for you. But she followed that so well, and she was able to walk in the sand, she was able to run in the sand, she was able to bike ride, and just, it was a great story hearing from her and watching the look on her face as she was retelling the story. Even she was just so excited.
Yeah, if she shared that story, and there's not a dry eye in the room when she shares that, it is very powerful, especially when people felt like their hope was lost. to be told this is just the way it's going to be. You can't work anymore. We know this happened because you were forced to get these shots, but oops, you just, I guess, have to deal with it. And you can be on disability now. And if it continues, we're going to have to cut your legs off, but no big deal. I mean, that's not far from what she was told or how she was told it. And for her to be able to, be living life again. She just texted me today that she's on Siesta Key.
I love Siesta Key.
Siesta Key is a great place down in Sarasota.
In Florida.
Yes, but don't tell people because then the locals get upset because then all the people show up there. So yeah, it's a powerful thing when those things change, when those happen, when the body heals, really great things happen. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to your weekly checkup. I'm Dr. Lazar. I've got Jaden in the studio, and it's super great to be sharing this info. Miss Mary Lou said, "I'm enjoying the info. Thanks for the info." You are so welcome. Glad you're tuning in and getting the life-giving info. So we've got a couple minutes left and want to make sure you're aware that every Tuesday night we're on here. If you've got people that you know could be expressing more of their God-given potential, they're just not, encourage them to listen. Just say, hey, it's Tuesday nights at 9, and then we're on again Saturday nights. People can hear it on our podcast, your weekly checkup podcast. There are a lot of ways to share hope. Information is great, but only if you do something with it. And so it's important that we take action. Success requires action. And so it's really important that we do that. And, we track things as we go through different types of care in the office. We track how they're affecting your life. In fact, we ask how what you're dealing with impacts your job performance or your ability to focus, or if you can bend or carry groceries. There are a lot of things we'll ask because people don't realize how far-reaching these problems can be, especially if there's just no, if you think there's nothing that can be done about it. A lot of times people just accept it and we say, no way, not on our watch, right? So, Jaden, before we wrap up, any thoughts you have for somebody? Let's say, we pray all the time that the people that are supposed to hear this will hear it. And so what would you say to somebody who's listening tonight for the very first time? They've never heard your weekly checkup. They've not, I think we've been doing this 14 years now, if my math is correct. But anyway, they hadn't heard before and there's some reason they're listening tonight. What would you tell that person who's a first-time listener?
Well, first I would say thank you for listening. And I would say, if the question I like to ask was something going on, wouldn't you like to at least know and find out? Then you can make your decision what you'd like to do or not do with that information, but you still have it. And because you're listening on the radio, if you let us know when you come into our office, you can save $224 by having a consultation with one of our doctors and the posture check. And it's just, I think it's so worth it. And I'm all for a deal too. So that's part of it too.
Very cool. Well, I agree. And for those of you that have been our loyal listeners and listening all these years, all these months, thank you so much for that. We really appreciate it. It's been a wonderful show. Give us a call throughout the week, and we'd love to see if we can help or find you somebody who can. Again, one more time, that number is 866-521-WELL, 866-521-9355. If you're interested in more information on the tissue regenerative technology work we're doing, just go to drlazar.com/TRT webinar. That's drlazar.com/TRT webinar, and you can watch that webinar on demand. Great stories, great info, and see how that can help. Well, on behalf of our team in Ann Arbor and our awesome team at WMUZ, thank you so much for tuning in. Join us again Saturday. Join us live next Tuesday. Listen to our podcast at yourweeklycheckup.com, and we'll look forward to being back next week.
God bless.
Okay, we are all set. We'll talk to you next week.
Awesome. Thanks so much.